decided to form 2 advisory panels, 2 advisory boards to assist them in this process. One panel was to be set up of various staff members so that way we would have representation from the various different unions of the city employee staff. And also then the other advisory panel is a panel consisting of city commission members, business owners, and various citizens of Maplewood as well. And how those people were selected for that panel was that each city council member had the opportunity of submitting the name of 2 individuals that would fall into that category. Either they had to be a Maplewood resident, somebody who served on one of our board or commissions, or a business owner within the community, or a business owner. And then also we have a representative from the Paid Per Call Fire Department. So that committee, that panel, has 9 members on it. And then there's, of course, the panel that has the city staff members on it, and each of them are on that panel. They were elected or selected by their various unions. And so with that in mind, one of the questions then that came up is that because the council in their original motion said that they wanted these advisory panels to be subject to the open meeting law, and that their meetings would all be open to the public so that anybody could come from the public and watch the proceedings and hear the discussion and hear the interaction that was going on as part of that part of the process. Well, as time went on, then the issue came up as to when they developed their questions for interviewing the candidates for city manager, whether or not that those discussions of developing those questions, whether or not that was going to be open to the public or not. We had a workshop on December 1st, 2008, where the majority of the council gave the direction to Mr. Chuck Auld, the acting city manager, that they wanted to keep the meetings open for that process and to have that transparency. Then on December 8th, 2008, it came up again at the council meeting, and 2 of the members of the council changed their mind. And of course, the city attorney had his position as to how legally it could be closed. And of course, I had a different viewpoint on that and felt that the meetings should remain open. But anyway, with all of that said, as a way to set up the foundation so that when you see the film footage, that you have a context and taking a look at it, let's take a look at some of our film footage now, and then we'll come back and we'll analyze it a little bit further. So let's take a look. Next then, we're moving along to the search process for city manager. Number 1 is to consider the calling of a special meeting for December 15th for the purpose of the selecting of final candidates.
Did that.
Very good.
I actually included that in my motion earlier.
Oh, okay, so you did, okay. Okay, very good. So I guess we have indeed already called that as part of another previous motion.
Hence Will's confusion.
Yeah, so anyway, okay, so indeed, then for citizens who are watching, there will be a special meeting on December 15th, 2008. One quick question I had for Mr. Auld, though, with regard to this is that will the packet of the resumes of like the 48 candidates or whatever, will they be available for the council to come in here prior to that meeting to be able to look at them like the Friday in advance?
I'm hoping so. I have a conversation planned with Mr. Bernard tomorrow, and I will let all the council know about that for sure. That's my understanding of how the process works, but I'll have to confirm that with him tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'm assuming that they're the full resume, it's not just like his summaries?
That is my understanding as well.
Okay, good, wonderful, that's great, thank you very much. Next then, we have then the consider the resolution calling for the closure of the advisory panel meetings.
Mayor and Council, Mr. Rosbach and Mr. Nephew approached me and indicated they wanted to revisit this item, so we placed it on the agenda for specific action by the council.
Okay, very good. Mr. Rosbach.
I was wrong. The meeting should be closed. That's my comment.
Okay, Mr. Nephew.
You know, we had discussion about this before, and I thought further about Eric and Kathy's comments, and I do think that they were right. I also did further investigation, and in terms of the open meeting law and its application to search panels, and found that it seems to be taken as an assumption for example, in the court case that was cited at the last meeting, that search panels appointed by bodies to come up with a preliminary list of applicants who are then, from whom other finalists are selected for interviewing, that they are not subject to the open meeting law. And so for that reason, I feel like we're in very comfortable ground allowing these to be closed. And so it's late. I'm tired.
Okay.
Changed my mind.
Okay, very good. And I do want to make a notation here that I encourage folks to watch the workshop where we discuss this at great length. And I do want to say that I'm sorry, Mr. Nephew, that you misconstrued what. So now one thing I do want to mention here is that Mr. Nephew had mentioned that it was getting late, and indeed it was. This meeting had gone rather late, and while this was on the agenda, it didn't get discussed until between 1 and 1:30 in the morning. And I know that for a lot of citizens, they've contacted me after the fact, is that they ran out of steam of watching those council meetings about 11:30 at night. So I had citizens call me up asking, well, how did that agenda item go? Because they had actually missed what it ended up being the end result. And of course, one of the things that Mr. Nephew brought up is that he was talking about some of the discussion that occurred at our workshop of December 1st, and how his idea about when he read a certain case, how that didn't apply. However, what I was doing was encouraging viewers and our citizens of Maplewood that they should go back and ask to listen to the workshop of December 1st, 2008, because many of the principles that were being talked about with regard to the open meeting law, and that it is to be construed in favor of public access, and that is why actually the law has only specific exceptions to the open meeting law, that once, especially in this case where you've got an advisory board that was appointed by the council, and we've got two advisory boards that were appointed by the council, and that the council had specifically stated that they would be subject to the open meeting law, that it seems that it would be, of course, in the public interest, that certainly being in following the open meeting law, that you would also have to follow only those exceptions that allow those meetings to be closed. So anyway, let's continue on with the film footage, and you can hear the additional discussion that ensued as we were talking about and referencing back to the workshop we'd had only a short week before. My comments were at that meeting, and I know that you feel that I drew a false analogy with this, but if you listen back to the DVD, you'll notice that when I talked about the Board of Regents, I was citing that as part of the name of the case, and that really what I was talking about is the philosophy, the principles of what it talked about. And I think I very clearly said it was not clearly on point, but that it did indeed say that there must be an assessment of whether such an effect about closing a meeting, whether it's so significant that it would have resulted in a material intrusion on the internal control and management of that governing body. And also, and I would like to have this put into the record as my comments for this, because I feel that this body is making a motion and supporting the closing of a meeting contrary to the open meeting law. And that this case specifically says, and I said this at the workshop, in addressing this issue, we must remember that because of the open meeting law, it was an